and families have been hit hard, and we need to amplify the voices and fight for them. So that's why we're here today. We're here with Jagmeet Singh, the leader of Canada's NDP, and we're here to listen to the stories of people trying to make ends meet on the ground. Jagmeet, welcome to Port Moody-Coquitlam.
Thanks so much, Bonita. And thanks for all the work you do in the city, in the community, and as an advocate. Thanks for fighting for people. Really honored to have Bonita on the team and really excited for Bonita to join us in Ottawa. And to talk about this issue, it's really important to hear from people that are living it and experiencing it. But I can say with a lot of clarity that while we've been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's been very tough, it's been very difficult, and it's taken up a lot of our time and a lot of our thoughts, it hasn't meant that the other crises have gone away. And we are still in the grip of a housing crisis that is impacting people across the country. But I know in the Lower Mainland, in my riding at Burnaby and across the Lower Mainland, people are feeling it particularly painfully. It is so difficult to find a place to call home. People simply can't. And I speak to people from all walks of life, whether they're young people starting off their life, a young professional, folks with families, seniors, people with low income, people with no income. Everyone is struggling. Everyone is having a hard time finding a place to call home. And so I look at this pandemic and the recovery. We are going to get through this pandemic. We are going to get through it together. And the opportunity we have coming out of this pandemic is to make some choices that will actually set us up for success in the future. And one of those choices has to be investing in housing. I want to see us take on this crisis like it truly is a crisis. Because the problem is that Liberals have often said it's a crisis. Justin Trudeau has said that, but he hasn't acted like it's a crisis. He's more interested in making a showing announcement than doing anything. 6 years of Liberals being in government, of Justin Trudeau being prime minister, and has it actually made a difference in people's lives? Can people now afford homes? No, they can't, because it hasn't been taken like a serious issue. It hasn't been treated like the crisis it is. So what we're proposing is some concrete steps. Let's massively invest in housing as a way to create jobs locally in communities and as a way to ensure people have a place to call home. We want to see people have a place they can buy. We want to make sure that there's affordable rental. And so what we're proposing is investing massively to create 500,000 new homes, investing in cooperatives, in not-for-profits, building apartments, building townhouses, building houses. We want to build massively as a way to recover out of this pandemic and a way to build forward for the future. We also want to put some measures in place that stop some of the pressures that are driving up the cost of housing. We know that people are treating Canada like a stock market when it comes to housing and just plopping their money into the housing market, hoping it'll continue to grow. And we don't want our housing market to be used like a stock market. It should be a place for people to buy a place they can call home, to find a place to call home. So we want to bring in a national foreign buyers tax. The BC government brought that in. The NDP did a great job. But this is something that needs to be tackled as well federally so that people don't move money between jurisdictions. We need to put in place a national, federal foreign buyers tax. We also need to tackle money laundering, something that BC understands very well, not as well known across Canada, but money laundering has been directly attributed to driving up the cost of housing. So if we tackle some of the pressures that are driving up the cost of housing and we put in place real investments to build more affordable homes, then people like Bryn and Jordan can actually find a place that they can call home. So with that, we are committed to doing this. We're not about putting on a show, we're about making a difference. And we believe that this is a time coming out of this pandemic, we need a recovery that is focused on people, and building housing is one of the ways we do that. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce folks that are going to talk about their own struggles and their reality, and just to give people a sense of what it feels like for someone that can't find a place to call home. So first, I'd like to pass over to Bryn. Bryn's going to talk about his experiences. Bryn, please, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy that you're talking about housing. You know, the struggles that my family's facing. We're a family of four. I have a new baby boy, 3 months old. We're struggling with two big things right now. My wife is on maternity leave, of course, which means we've had a significant cut in income, which is not a good thing to deal with in Vancouver right now. And on top of that, we're dealing with student loan repayments. I think we're paying $1,000 between us a month, plus we're only living on, you know, one income and a bit. So for us, the idea of buying a home is so far away, and it's something we really want, but it's hard to imagine that we could do that when we're dealing with all of these other bills that we have to pay, with this money we have to pay, just so that we could have gotten education to get where we are, and that's been a real struggle for us. You know, moving forward with that, we know that my wife wants to go back to work, of course. She worked very hard for her education, and we know that the next cost for us, even while paying off our student loans, is going to be childcare. Childcare is crazy hard to find where we are right now, and it's not that cheap either. So we're on waiting lists right now. We're looking at the cost, and we're really going to have to think about, you know, does one of us need to just stay home with the kids, whether it's her or even me? Because at some point the cost of childcare is more than we can actually make working. So, you know, we want a house, just like you were saying, Jagmeet, but there's all these other things that are getting in the way of us being able to invest in that, you know, to put money into a house in our local community, to be even just spending money in our local community because of this money that's going, I think, to things that just are not helping us or anyone else get ahead right now. Yeah, so I mean, that's our story right now, is student loans are piling up, and childcare is not getting any cheaper for us.
Thanks so much, Bryn. And you really highlighted an important part of the story, is that the housing crisis isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening in a reality where new graduates have to deal with crushing student debt, and women who want to get back into the workplace can't find affordable childcare. So we need to address all those things. And one of the things that we are proud to announce is, not only do we want to immediately and permanently remove interest off of any federal student loan payments, we actually want to move towards loan forgiveness and forgive loans for students. We put forward a plan to forgive a significant portion of student debt, so that young people, for young graduates, people with small young families, people just starting off their life, can actually get some real support and relief. So thanks for bringing that up, Bryn. It really speaks to what a lot of people like you are going through. You're not alone, and that's why we're motivated and committed to doing something to fix this. Now I want to introduce Jordan. Jordan's also going to talk about the experience of what it's like not being able to find a place to call home, and some of the struggles that means. Jordan, the mic is now yours.
Yes, thank you, Jagmeet and Bonita, for having me today to talk about this issue. It's something that's very important to me as a young person, as well as thousands of people living, in Canada, especially in Vancouver, because as we all know, the cost of living in Vancouver is so astronomically high that to be able to find a place to live, to call a home, to even purchase a home, which right now to me seems like such a foreign concept that I'm not sure that's ever going to happen in my lifetime, but hopefully we can find the solutions to these problems. So a little bit about myself. I'm 24 years old. I attend college here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver. Right now, per semester, I'm paying upwards of $2,000, $3,000 on tuition, student fees, textbooks, and that's just taking my education into account. That's not accounting for everything else that I'll need to pay for, groceries, other necessities, just the cost of living. So right now, unfortunately, my situation, I'm living with my father, which love him and I thank him for everything he's provided for me, but I think we both deserve the opportunity at this stage in our life to be able to find our own path and live on our own and have a space to call our own. And the amount of money I'm paying per semester right now, again, like I said, upwards of $3,000, you multiply that over a 3-semester year, that's $10,000 per year just going into my education right now. And with the amount of income that I'm making as a part-time, low-wage earner, that's about 1/3 of my total income, which most financial experts will say that's what you should be spending on housing. So how could I possibly be able to juggle both? And these issues that affect so many of us here in Canada really don't need to be this way. Canada is a very well-developed country with exorbitant wealth. You look at other countries in the world, they have found policy-driven solutions to make education affordable, virtually free for their citizens. So in particular, I'm thinking about Germany has found that their students pay almost nothing in tuition. So they're able to go achieve their goals and do what they want to do without having this looming burden over their head of paying off student debt for years and years to come. And I just think here in Canada, we really need our federal government to step up and help out people like myself, people like Bryn, and allow us to do what we want to do and succeed and prosper in the future without having to worry so much about how we're going to afford it and choosing between paying for a place to live and paying for our tuition. Yeah, no, that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jordan. It really brings like the reality forward when we hear from people that are living it right now. Jordan and Bryn, both your stories are exactly what people are going through. Jordan, the fact that it is such a struggle to get an education, that it costs so much, that it is such a burden, is what is in a lot of cases discouraging young people from actually going to get higher education. And we will not succeed as a country if people are reluctant or nervous about pursuing education because it costs too much. We are all going to miss out. It is actually a harm to everyone. And that's why when we take care of each other, when we make things better for the next generation, it is an investment in all of our combined, our collective futures. When we support people so they can pursue their dreams and pursue the education they want, we all benefit from it. And we all suffer when people don't do that. So really appreciate, Jordan, you laying that out and that hopeful message. The thing about this, when we talk about these crises, sometimes it feels really overwhelming, but the silver lining is this doesn't have to be this way. We actually can change this. We can actually make decisions that will improve the life for people. We can make tuition affordable and move towards free tuition. We can actually make sure people can access childcare. And when it comes to housing, one of the most important things in people's lives, having a place to call home, we can make the decision so that people can find a place to call home. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. Thank you so much, Bonita, for being here and for sharing your experience and for working so hard for people. I now want to turn it back to Nina to handle any questions that the media might have. Nina?
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Alors, j'aimerais inviter les membres des médias d'utiliser la fonction lever la main pour poser votre question. I would like to invite members of the media to please use the raise hand function to ask your question. We will go ahead and start with Marika Walsh with the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Singh. I'm wondering what the NDP's position is on the patent waiver at the WTO. Those debates are ongoing. Canada is not yet stating its position. Do you think that Canada risks its own vaccine supply if it would agree to a patent waiver?
Thank you, Ms. Walsh, for the question. I want to be very clear on this. For as long as I've been at the federal level looking at this Liberal government and Justin Trudeau, he has consistently supported big pharma over people. It has been appalling, frankly. There was a commitment early on in 2015 that Justin Trudeau was going to add a new list of countries to the committee that sets our drug prices that would significantly lower the cost of medication. The committee actually requested this. They said, give us a new list of countries and we can negotiate better prices. It is 6 years and the Liberal government has failed to do that. The only people that benefit from the Liberal government not doing that is big pharma. So now we're up against a global pandemic and countries around the world that are struggling to produce the vaccine have made one clear request. They're saying, we need a waiver on the patents so we can produce more vaccines. And we are seeing horrible conditions in countries like India where the outbreak has just gone wild. They would benefit directly. It would save lives if they could produce more vaccines. So we are unequivocally stating, Justin Trudeau, stand up to big pharma for once. Stand up to big pharma and stand up for people. He's failed to do so on a number of occasions. We believe very firmly that there's nothing to be gained by caving into or supporting the profits of big pharma, that as a country, we should stand up to big pharma and support people. So our call is very clear. We need to support the waiver of patents so countries around the world can produce the vaccine affordably and so that they can actually save the people. Justin Trudeau has failed to do this a number of times and continues to fail to stand up to big pharma and has yet to take a position. We are encouraging Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government to stand up to big pharma and protect people by waiving the patent protection.
Marika, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I do have a follow-up. Thank you. That doesn't address my question, though, about whether you think allowing for this patent waiver, would it all put at risk Canada's supply?
Okay, I definitely answered the question.
No. My question is very specific. My question is very specific, Mr. Singh. Does it put Canada's supply and Canada's own vaccine rollout at risk?
So far, what we've seen is Canada has had a horrible vaccine procurement. So it has been horrible. We are one of the world's largest economies, and our vaccine rollout has been horrible. And Trudeau has consistently backed up Big Pharma, and it does not benefit Canada. So no, I absolutely don't think standing up to Big Pharma is any harm to Canadians. In fact, we need to stand up to Big Pharma so that we should be able to produce our own supply locally. So Canada should have made the investments to produce our own supply. And Canada should be standing up to Big Pharma. And standing up to Big Pharma is how we get better prices, how we negotiate fair prices for Canadians, how we do our part to fight this global pandemic. So absolutely, we need to stand up to Big Pharma without a question, and caving into them and supporting them as the Liberals have done hasn't benefited Canadians at all. We have the worst vaccine rollout. If you look at the size of our country, the size of our economy, and compare it to other countries, we have been horrible. So no, the approach of the Liberals has been a failed approach, and standing up to Big Pharma is the right thing to do and will give better results.
Merci beaucoup. Prochain, j'ai Réfilion avec TVA. C'est à vous.
Bonjour, M. Singh.
Bonjour.
Je voulais vous entendre au sujet du sommet du G7 qui aura lieu le mois prochain au Royaume-Uni. Tous les chefs d'État et de gouvernement jusqu'à présent ont confirmé leur présence, mais pas M. Trudeau encore. Je voulais savoir de votre côté, est-ce que vous pensez qu'il devrait être présent physiquement au Royaume-Uni pour ce sommet lui aussi, ou est-ce qu'il devrait plutôt s'abstenir vu que le gouvernement dit aux Canadiens de ne pas voyager?
Je pense qu'à ce moment, oui, on doit continuer d'avoir des discussions avec les autres pays et ces discussions sont importantes, mais l'idée de ne pas voyager, dans mon avis, c'est ce qu'on a exigé les Canadiens de faire. Donc, c'est cohérent de dire que on ne veut, comme Premier ministre, qu'il ne va pas voyager à ce moment. Je pense que on a raison d'avoir cette position. Et en général, pour moi, ce qui est la priorité à ce moment, c'est deux choses. On doit s'assurer que toute la population est vaccinée et on doit s'assurer qu'on a accès à un programme de congé des maladies payées qui fonctionne. Ce sont les deux priorités, dans mon avis, à ce moment, dans cette crise, pour sauver les vies, pour protéger les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Donc, vous n'auriez pas de problème à ce que M. Trudeau soit le seul à participer de façon virtuelle?
Non, je n'ai pas un problème avec ça. Pour moi, encore, je dis qu'on doit encourager les Canadiens de rester chez eux et c'est cohérent si on exige les Canadiennes de faire ça, c'est important qu'on montre le leadership. Donc, dans mon avis, ça, c'est ce qui est important. On sait qu'il y a des problèmes avec la propagation des nouveaux variants. Et c'est une vraie menace. Donc, on doit faire notre part pour réduire cette menace et la possibilité de la propagation des nouveaux variants. Deuxièmement, pour moi, ce qui est prioritaire à ce moment dans cette crise, c'est de faire ces deux choses parce que tous les experts sont d'accord. On doit vacciner toute la population et deuxièmement, on doit avoir accès à un programme de congé des maladies payées. Ce sont les deux priorités pour moi. Et ça doit être la priorité pour Justin Trudeau aussi.
Next, I have David Sturgeon with the CBC. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Thanks for taking questions.
Of course.
Wanted to ask you about Line 5, the Anishinaabe First Nation, the Anishinaabe Nation, issued a press release saying that they want to see the line shut down. The Greens today are saying that they support the shutting down of this pipeline. What is your party's position on it?
Well, we've said that this is a vital infrastructure piece for transportation, provides resources for airports in the lower in southwestern Ontario, namely Pearson. So it's a project that's pretty vital for heating homes and for providing vital resources for a lot of sectors. So it's something that we've said is an important.
But what about the concerns about a possible spill polluting the major waterways, the Strait of Mackinac, the First Nations in Ontario, they're saying that this violates their treaty rights.
We've got to make sure we respect Indigenous rights. So anytime there's a project, we've got to respect those rights. There's an existing line, and the question is about improving the existing line and making sure that it's safe and that it's updated, as opposed to building a new line. If my understanding of the project is that it's already there, there is a line. It just needs to be updated to be able to provide heating and heating energy and energy for travel and transportation. But anytime we do any project, there's no doubt that it has to be one that respects Indigenous rights, and so that has to be a part of the consideration. And of course, evaluating the impacts on the environment. But from my understanding, this is already a line that is there. It's just about renewing it or ensuring that it's safe.
Next, I have Chris Reynolds with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
I'm Mr. Singh. Thanks for taking our questions.
Of course.
I was just hoping to ask you for a couple details on the housing plan you were suggesting. You
Yes.
noted investing massively in creating 500,000 new homes. So I just wanted to ask, how much were you thinking of investing and over what period of time to create those 500,000 homes?
Certainly. It's a $14 billion investment that we're proposing to start over 4 years. We really need to take this seriously. And I think the problem so far has been that we have heard from folks that say, yeah, this is a crisis. We've even heard Justin Trudeau say it's a crisis, but he hasn't backed it up with action that shows he believes it's a crisis. It's just been the words, but not the action. So for us, the action would be a real investment, like $14 billion over 4 years. That is a real investment to really tackle building more places that people can call home. So that's one. We also, in addition, the other measures are measures that could potentially raise revenue and certainly discourage some of the pressures that are driving up the cost of housing. So coupled in with our $14 billion investment proposal is putting in a foreign buyers tax to discourage that input that is driving up the cost of housing. Also looking at a vacant property tax to free up more properties, more homes for people to actually live in, as opposed to be used as investments. We also are looking at money laundering, and there was a really strong research out of BC that attributes a significant portion of the rise in cost of housing to money laundering. This is something that is best tackled at the federal level. Federal government having the jurisdiction, the ability to make sure money is not transferred between jurisdictions. So these are some of the things that we need to do to control the pressures that are driving up the cost. And a real investment is the $14 billion that we're starting with. But really the question is, do we want to tackle this crisis like we actually want to win? And New Democrats answer that question, yes. Liberals have just kind of said it's a problem, but not really committed to doing anything about it.
On the foreign buyers tax, so the Liberals have proposed a non-resident tax on vacant property of 1% of the value of that real estate, that residential real estate. So first of all, what percent was the NDP thinking for their foreign home buyers tax? And also there are questions about really how effective that would be on reducing prices in an overheated market. So I'm curious about the tax percentage, the effectiveness of said tax, and also whether maybe you would consider tightening, or do you think there's a need to tighten the mortgage stress test?
So in terms of percentage, the Liberals are proposing 1%, and that is not going to have a difference at all. The price of property increases enough that 1% is easily something that a foreign investor could swallow. So that's not going to have any impact whatsoever. What BC has done is 20%, and that's what we're proposing. A 20% foreign buyers tax would have a very properly so chilling effect on foreign investment. So it would actually discourage people using Canada's housing market as a stock market or a commodity market. And that's what we want to do. We don't want people dropping their money in Canada just to make money off the housing market. We want housing to be for people to find a place to call home. That's the point of it. It shouldn't be just solely a driver for making profits for the ultra rich. That shouldn't be what it's for. And so we are unequivocal about trying to build a housing market that is actually working for people, that doesn't work to just make profits, but one that works to give people a place to call home. And to do that, 1% is meaningless. 1% is not even a drop in the bucket. It's not going to be in any way deterring foreign investment. 20%, it'll have an impact. And that's what we're proposing.
And is there a need for a tighter stress test?
On that, we can always look at making sure our mortgage process is one that's fair and that ensures that we've got safe mortgages. So making sure people are able to do it. That's something to consider. But I think the pressure, I think the real goal here, that's not my priority. My priority is on the two things. How do we build more places for people to call home? So building more, investing in it, and how do we take away some of the pressures that are driving up the costs that come from foreign investments, that come from money laundering? So that's my approach.
Thanks.
Merci. Thank you very much. I see no more questions. So this concludes our press conference. Ceci met fin à notre conférence de presse.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks so much, Bonita. Again, thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Bren. Really great honor to have you all here. Thanks to all the media that attended and all the questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.